Hello friends, welcome to or back to my channel. My name's Haley and today we're going to be doing the mid-year book freakout tag. I'm super excited to be doing this video because this is the first video I ever posted on my channel, I'm pretty sure last year, and so it's very exciting and special to be making this video a year later. I will say I've definitely not been consistent with YouTube. It hasn't been something that I've really turned into a good hobby yet. I am kind of, working on it. I was going through things last night, but it is really exciting to make this video for the second time and to know that I'm doing a trend for the second time. So I am very excited. Also, I have not posted anything on this channel about what I've actually read this year. I've posted a bunch of TBRs and I posted one doing book stuff video, and I did post my math vlog. So according to this channel, the only book you guys really know that I've read this year is math, and that unfortunately will come up. But I say unfortunately, I'm just not the biggest ACOTAR fan, but I'm still reading. Anyways, so if you don't know, the mid-year book freakout tag, it was created by other creators on YouTube. There have been a lot of different versions, iterations. I'm just going to go with the original 13 questions that I have found. So let's just get into it. Actually, before we start, let me just say, I don't know why my voice sounds so raspy. It has been like this for a week now, and I don't really know what I did. I don't feel sick or anything, so sorry if it's kind of annoying. It's annoying to me too, but it is what it is at this point. The first question is, what is the best book you've read so far this year? And my answer is Project Hail Mary, which this was a huge shock to me because I knew I wanted to read this book. A lot of people had recommended it to me, even though I told them I'm not a super sci-fi person. They'd also recommended listening to the audiobook, which unfortunately the audiobook is an Audible exclusive. However, my fiance used one of his Audible credits to buy this book, and we ended up actually listening to this book together, which was fun. This book was so incredible. I feel like it's kind of hard to give a synopsis of this book without giving away too much. So when you start the book, you wake up and you're in the head of this astronaut, and his name is Ryland Grace, and he does not know what is going on. He doesn't know where he is. He doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't know anything, and he wakes up and he's in this spaceship, and he sees that the two other people that were in the spaceship with him are dead, and he has to figure out what is going on. And so then the story is told in kind of alternating chapters where he's slowly getting his memories back, and so as he's getting his memories back, you kind of learn why he's there, what he's doing, what the problem is. And then you're also following him trying to work on this ship, trying to figure out what's going on and what to do and all that stuff. And this book, and it doesn't sound necessarily super, I feel like that doesn't sound necessarily super captivating, but oh my gosh. And then I personally did not know where this book was going, what was going to happen once he kind of got into space. So I don't really want to say more. Maybe if you have read this book, you feel I'm not saying enough, but just trust me, this book was so freaking good. And they're making it into a movie. I saw the trailer recently. It has, what's his name? I think it's Ryan Gosling is the main guy. Yeah, that's him, right? Yeah, so they're making Ryan Gosling, which I think is awesome. I'm very interested to see how they do everything that is in the book. But yeah, the book was so beautiful. It was so just it just made you feel so good. I absolutely adored it. I just can't even really put into words how much I really truly loved this book. It made me cry at the end. It was so good. It was wonderful. I highly recommend it. I think about it literally all the time. I don't know what I could read that could possibly top it. The next book is the best sequel you've read this year, and for this I am picking Finlay Donovan Digs Her Own Grave. So the Finlay Donovan series, if you don't know, we're following Finlay, and Finlay is an author, and she's meeting up with her agent in a Panera, and they're kind of like discussing the plot of her book. And she writes kind of like mystery romance books, and the lady next to her overhears her and thinks that she is a professional hit woman, and so she like slides her a note, and she's like, if you kill my husband, I'll give you $50,000. And Finlay's like, what? That's crazy, I could never do that. But then she kind of accidentally does, and then the books go from there. And these books are outrageous. They are definitely not the most believable thing ever. They are silly, goofy, funny books. But I do feel like some of them had kind of lost the plot. So before this year, I had only read the first 2, I believe. And this author has been consistently putting out one of these books every year. And so we are up to the 5th book with a novella about Vero. And so this year, I started from the beginning and I reread the first 2, and then I read the rest of the books that are out. So again, 3, 4, 5, and the novella. And this one, the 5th one, was such a good book. I kind of felt like we were losing the plot in like the 3rd and the 4th books. Like, I don't feel like they were as good as the first couple, especially the one where they were in Atlantic City. Like, I just felt like that book was so pointless and all over the place, and like it just kind of was like losing me. And so, you know, I was losing steam with this series. I was like, you know, like the first book is really fun, but like, is it worth it to keep reading this series? And then I got to the 5th one and I was like, okay, yes, like this one was really good. And a thing you should know about these is they always end on like a massive cliffhanger. So it's not one of those books where you can necessarily like end the first one and it's like it's its own story. Like, I know a lot of mystery series, you can like finish the first one and then you can just like stop if you want. That's not really like this, because they end on like a huge cliffhanger every single book. And so that's kind of like why you feel like the urge to keep reading. But the 5th one was so good. In this one, we are following Finlay, of course. And in this one, what happens is, like, without spoiling too much, like, because there definitely is like an overarching plot throughout the whole book series, but in this specific one, like, what I can say without spoiling is her neighbor, she has this old neighbor named Miss, what is her name? She's like the star of the show. I can't remember her name at this point. But she is like this really nosy neighbor, and she kind of like keeps track of everything they're doing. She's always like spying on them, and she's just like really, like, from the outside she seems like a nuisance, but like she's kind of just like this lonely old lady. And at the beginning of the book, a body turns up in her backyard, and so then she can't live in her house because they're like investigating and stuff. And her nephew or something is supposed to be like taking care of her, and then he kind of like dumps her off onto Finlay, and she ends up living at Finlay's house. And her neighbor, they do not get along at first because, you know, she's an old lady, she's kind of strict, but she's also hilarious. And then, you know, obviously over the course of the book, we learn kind of like why she's so tough, and she breaks her walls down, and you come to really love her, and like she becomes, you know, part of the family and stuff. And like that's like the wholesome part that's kind of like obvious. There is still like the mystery plot, right? Like, why are these bodies in their yard? Who are they? How did they get there? And that plot line is also very good and very fun, and like I didn't feel like it was like stupid or just like there for the sake of being there. Like, I actually really enjoyed the plot line. So this really like re-upped my love for this series and made me excited for the future books. I know we're getting at least 2 more books in this series, so very exciting. I think the old lady's name is Miss Daughtry, maybe? Now this is gonna bother me. I have to look it up. Let's see. How many things can I look up in this video? It's funny because this old lady's in the 3rd book too. They're at like this police academy, and they're like doing this class, and it's so funny. Miss Haggerty. I was not even close. Well, I guess that has Haggerty and Daughtry have a lot of the same letters. Mrs. Haggerty. Oh, loved it. Okay, that was 2nd prompt. So 3rd prompt, new release you want to read. So 2 new releases that are like kind of at the top of my list are One Golden Summer and Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Atmosphere is Taylor Jenkins Reid new book. She hasn't put out a new book in like 2 or 3 years, so I'm very excited for this one. And this one we're following like our main character. She's an astronaut for NASA in the 80s. And then in One Golden Summer, we're following Charlie and Alice, and Charlie is the brother from the first book Carly Fortune put out, which is Every Summer After. So these are two books that I'm really looking forward to. I just got my audiobook hold for Atmosphere, and I do buy all Taylor Jenkins Reid's books because they're so good, but also her audiobooks are always so good. Like the audio for Daisy Jones is good because that's like interview. Evelyn Hugo, just like the voice actor they picked for Evelyn Hugo was so good. So I'm very excited to read those. I have a lot of other ones, but I'm excited for those specifically. I actually did at the beginning of this year film a like 2025 anticipated releases video that I never edited or published. But I think I'm gonna go back at the end of the year and like say whether I read them or not and like give my review. And so I think that would be super fun. I actually kind of want to like start looking into that now, you know, and like the ones I have read, like do my little like review part for that now, because I feel like that's going to be kind of like a massive project to like edit the original video and then take new videos and put them in. And I just don't like editing, so. Anyways, those are two at the top of my list. And I will say Atmosphere was on my list from the beginning of the year. One Golden Summer was not, but you'll learn why it is now in a little bit. The more we go, you know? Number 4 is the most anticipated release for the second half of the year. And off the top of my head, my most anticipated release is Murder on the Marlowe Bell, and this is the 4th book in the Marlowe Murder Club series, and I am so excited. I read the first 3 books in this series last year, and they are so good. So in the Marlowe Murder Club, our main character is Judith Potts, and then there's a lot of other like main characters, but I would say she's like the main character. And Judith is this like old woman, and she lives in this like small community called Marlowe, and these are set in like England, and they just like solve murder. She just like gets up in the police's business and everyone's business, and they solve murders. And the 4th one is coming out, and I'm super pumped. I actually got sent an arc of this book. Oh my gosh, I'll put the picture up. I got sent an arc of this book probably in like May, and I know you're like, if this is one of your most anticipated releases, why haven't you read it yet? It just isn't the time, okay? But I'm gonna read it. And this one, it's like they're set on a boat. I think it's like a dinner cruise type thing, and somebody gets murdered, obviously. But I really don't know, but I'm so excited to read this one. Okay, so number 5 is the biggest disappointment you've had this year, and I have 2 books for this. So the first one is The Strawberry Patch Pancake House, and this book is the 4th book in the Dream Harbor series by Lori Gilmore, which like the first one is The Pumpkin Spice Cafe. And I don't necessarily love these books, right? Like all of these books have been like 2 or 3 stars for me. So I wasn't necessarily expecting like a 5-star banger when I started reading this. But the reason why this is so disappointing to me and why I just like really did not like this one specifically is because this book had like the nanny single dad trope, and it was so icky to me. It was so icky from the moment they met each other. They literally like met because like she spilled coffee all over his shirt in the Pumpkin Spice Cafe, and she was like, oh my god, I want to just do him right here on this table, like immediately. And okay, maybe she didn't say that, but like that was the vibe, you know. And this book was so lusty and just so like, it was so just from the start, it was not, they did not actually seem like attracted to each other, or not, that's not what I meant to say. They seemed attracted to each other. They didn't seem like they knew each other or that they actually liked the other person for their personality or like any of their character traits. They just like wanted to like have sex with them basically. And so I just like did not like that, and it like really put me off. And like I feel like I need to read like a couple other like nanny romance tropes, because like that one was not it in my opinion. And I mean, I think overall this book got pretty negative reviews, like just in general, that like the relationship wasn't that like good and that people didn't really like it that much. But yeah, it was icky. And there was also just one part where like, and maybe this happens in real life, and if you think that this is not gross, like good for you, but like in the setting of this book, in this specific instance, it icked me out. He was like eating her out in the morning, and he was like grinding up against the bed and literally like finishing his pants while he was, and I was just like, I'm not saying that doesn't happen, and I'm not saying it can't even be like attractive in the moment, but like in that moment in the book, the way it was written, it was so gross. I was like, ew. So very disappointed by this one. I will still read the next one. The next one is Annie and Mac's book. I've been looking forward to it. There's also going to be some sort of 6th book. I feel like she might have said it was a novella, but I am still going to read them even though like the series is kind of mad to me. I like to know. I have FOMO. So my other disappointment was The Lifestyle, and this is not a super popular book, I feel like. This book I got from Book of the Month a couple years ago. In this book, we're following this couple and their marriage is kind of on the rocks, and the wife of the couple, one of her clients from her job, tells her like, oh, well, me and my husband swing and like we love it and it's like completely fixed our marriage, like you should try it. And so our main character convinces her husband and her best friend and her husband that they should become swingers. And so they kind of get involved in like the swinging lifestyle, and we kind of like watch their relationship unfold from there. I was just disappointed by this book. I thought this book was such a cool concept. I've never read any other book or even heard of any other book in the mainstream about swinging, and so I thought, you know, this was like a super unique idea, and I thought I was really gonna like it and I was just gonna kind of like learn about it, but it just felt like nothing was fully developed. It felt like the swinging aspect was kind of underdeveloped. It felt like their relationship development was kind of underdeveloped. The friendships underdeveloped. Like it all just felt so half-baked. And so I was like very excited going into this because I was excited that I would get to learn about swinging and like just see something different, like a different type of relationship that I've not been exposed to before. But overall, it just was very disappointing how the book was written, and I didn't enjoy it that much. I think I ended up giving it like 2 stars. Sorry if I switched angles a little bit. I had to check up on my camera. Yesterday I went to the pool and I got like a sun rash. I get these rashes when I'm in the sun. It's, I guess, like a really white people problem, but they hurt so bad. It's like sunburn, but it's like more of a rash, but it's like mostly gone today, so I don't know. Anyways, nobody asked. And then the next one is the biggest surprise, and honestly, like, I try not to repeat when I do these videos, but the biggest surprise to me was Project Hail Mary. I have not read sci-fi, even though I'm a science person. Like, I just don't read a lot of sci-fi, and I just loved it. Like, I already kind of said my piece, so I'm not really gonna go into it, but I was just so shocked by how much I liked the content of this book, the writing of this book, the characters, like the story, just everything about this book was wonderful. So I definitely was surprised by this because I thought I would like it at best. Like in my mind, I was like, oh, this is probably going to be like a 3-star read for me. And it's literally my favorite book that I've read this year. Number 7 is my new favorite author. And for this, I'm going to pick Carly Fortune. So this year I read so far Every Summer After and This Summer Will Be Different by Carly Fortune, and I really like them. I think they're so fun. I think she does a really good job of setting to make it feel like very atmospheric. You really feel like you're there, and if you don't feel like you're there, like at least for me, like it made me want to go there. And so I think I love that. And then I like the characters. The characters are very real, but they're not like too real to the point where you're like, but like the characters are real. The relationship development is there. Like for me personally, I felt like I could tell why the characters liked each other. I just have really enjoyed her 2 books that I read, which is why, like I said earlier, One Golden Summer is now one of my most anticipated reads or a new release that I really want to get to because I loved these 2 so much. And so I have recently acquired One Golden Summer, but yeah, I really like her books. A lot of people have told me not to read the pink one, Meet Me at the Lake. I don't know, I might check it out, I might not, I might just kind of like leave it. A lot of people have said that it is like the worst one, so that she's written, so I don't know, but I feel like these 2 books really solidified like that she's an author that I really like, and I think One Golden Summer will just add on to that. Like, I've not seen any negative reviews of One Golden Summer. I've actually seen so many people, like I've seen genuinely so many people be like, I did not think I was going to read any more Carly Fortune books because I didn't like them, read it and be like, wow, I loved this. So I think I'm going to really like that one. So that is one of my new favorite authors. Last year I said Ali Hazelwood, and she's really one of my favorite authors now. I've read almost all of her books, but she puts them out too fast for me to keep up with. All right, number 8 is your newest fictional crush, and I have to do it. It's Rhysand, okay? It's Rhysand. I read Akamath. I fell in love with Rhysand, and that's really all I'm going to say on the matter. I have a whole reading vlog dedicated to Akamath. If you've read the book, it is very spoilery. I talk about everything that happens in the book because it's such a widely popular series that I feel like it was okay. And if there's lots of spoiler warnings, so if you have not read the book, I would not recommend. But if you have and you want to hear my thoughts, I'm reading Aqua right now. I've been reading it since March. I still love Resand, but that book is I hate it. Number 9 is the newest favorite fictional character, and this one took me a minute to think of, but I am going to end up saying Violet Hughes from A Lady's Formula for Love. And I read this book back in April, and I kind of stumbled upon this book. I was at this used bookstore in my hometown, and I was like looking at the used romance books, and this book has a round bottom flask on the spine, I'm pretty sure. I already put it up like in my books. We can talk about that later why my books are up, but that's why I don't have any of these books, by the way, is I own almost all the books I'm talking about, but all of them are in containers, most of them, so I don't have them out. Anyways, this book had like a flask on the side, and I'll make sure to put a picture, and I was like, intriguing chemistry, but it's like a romance book. So I picked it up, and this book, we are in like 1850s or something around there, and our main character Violet, she runs this secret society for females in STEM, and it's called Athena's Retreat, maybe, I think that sounds right. And basically it has the appearance of like a social club on the outside, but like really behind closed doors, like these women are pursuing their interest. And so some of them are scientists, some of them are mathematicians, some of them are into engineering, different things like that. And so Violet runs this retreat for these women because obviously back in the 1800s, like women were not allowed to be scientists, they were not allowed to be educated. So basically in this book, Violet is coming up with this antidote to this gas that has been used on people as like a weapon, and somebody does not want her to make this antidote, and so they are breaking into Athena's retreat, and they've caused multiple problems. And so because of this, her stepson gets her a personal security guard, and her security guard is who like the love interest is. And so I really liked this book because one, like this is my first year really getting into Regency stuff. I read Half a Soul, which was like the first Regency book, and then I read a couple others, and now I read this one, and I really loved it. I loved this character Violet. She was so like headstrong and determined, but in a good way. Like she was headstrong because she wanted to like protect the people that she cared about, and she wanted to protect these women and give them the opportunity to do things that they normally wouldn't have to do. And I honestly I think about this all the time. I think about what it would be like to be a woman born in like an earlier time period, like even just being a woman that was born in the 1930s or 40s, like my grandma was born in the 30s. Like I think about that, and I think about how little control they had over their lives and how little freedom they had. And I would like to believe that I would stand up for myself, and like I would work for my freedom, and I wouldn't just get like bossed around. But like books like these show like how genuinely truly hard it is for women to stand up for themselves and to not get like mistreated and get like outcast in society. It just like shows you how different it was. And I just like really like to think that I would like be the type of person like Violet was, to like pursue my passions and like do what I want, even if like men say I can't do it. And so I just like really resonated with her because that's something I genuinely think about all the time. And I think about just like that, the fact that like men used to tell women what they could and couldn't do, and like women literally just couldn't do stuff because men said they couldn't, and they controlled everything. And you know, in the wise words of Taylor Swift, patriarchy, keychain on the ground, you know. And so I really liked Violet. I loved this story. I loved like this whole setting, and this is a series. There are 2 more books that I can't wait to read, but I definitely think that Violet is my newest favorite character. Also, this video was supposed to be short. I feel like it's getting so long. We have 4 more. Okay, next, a book that made you cry. So I actually have a ton of books that have made me cry. I'm keeping a list. I think I'm gonna make a video at the end of the year, but for this one I picked Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. And if you have not read this book, it's very hard to describe, and it's very hard to make it sound interesting. This book, we're following these 2 main characters, and they meet when they're younger, and then they have a bit of a like breakup, if you will, and then they reconnect when they are in college, and then they start making video games together. And you're following their life as they are making video games together, as they are learning who they are, as they're growing up. And this book was just a highly emotional book. There's just like honestly a lot of bad things happen to the characters in the past timelines, like when you're kind of like flashing back, you're learning about them in the present. It's just a very emotional book, and I definitely cried at multiple different points in this book. It's not for the faint of heart. Overall, I would say it had like a hopeful, positive feeling at the end, but like throughout the book there are a lot of emotional things that get covered, and so this book definitely made me cry a time or two. Next is a book that made you happy, and for this I'm gonna pick two books that are part of a little series, and it is Don't Want You Like a Best Friend and You're the Problem It's You by Emma R. Albin. And these are Regency type romance. Let me just say, when I say Regency, I just mean like old. I don't really know what technically Regency is, and like I know there's like Regency and Victorian in different areas, different like eras, not areas, and I don't really know the difference. So when I'm talking about something that's like older and like women have to come out and like they have to go to balls and they have to wear like 18,000 layers of dresses, I'm just gonna say Regency. But these are like Regency romances, and it's kind of a series. In the first book we're following our two main girls, and then the second book we're following the boys. And in the first book we're following the girls. Beth is one of them, and her dad died, and like her uncle kind of like kicks them out of the family, and so they don't really have any money, so they have to go to London, and she has to like have her season, and she basically has to like marry rich, or her and her mom are going to be like in the streets. And then we have our other girl, I can't remember her name, because why would I be able to remember someone's name in a book? And the other girl, she has been like having her seasons, right? This is like her third or fourth season, and she just like is not interested. She does not want to get married. She and her dad are really close. She just wants to not be married to a guy, which like honestly understandable, you know? Gwen. And so Beth and Gwen meet, and they kind of become fast friends, and then they also find out that their parents kind of have a history, and that they courted back when it was their season, and then her mom ended up marrying someone else. And so then they're kind of like parent trapping their parents, but also over the course of the book they're kind of realizing that the reason they don't want to be in relationships with these men is because they're gay and they like each other. And so that book was so fun. I just really loved their relationship, like them learning about themselves, their parent trapping their parents, then like just like the side characters are fun, like their cousins and stuff. And it was just so fun, and I just really loved it. And then the second book we're following their two cousins. So with one of the main guys is Beth's cousin, and he's like from the family that kind of like threw them out on the street, and then the other one is Gwen's cousin. And this one is slightly different because they know that they are gay, and you know, it's a lot more acceptable for a man to be gay because they can just like hide it and like nobody tells, and they have like little secret gay clubs. But God forbid a woman like a woman, you know, like these girls, they have to hide, but these guys, they can just do whatever they want. But anywho, so we're following that. They're gay, and they kind of like each other, but they're very antagonistic towards each other. But then they kind of come up with a plan to try and figure out how they can be together and the girls can be together without anyone catching on. And so these books were very sweet. They were very fun. I loved the characters. I just loved it. It was great. I think part of the reason I loved it, and part of the reason why other people might not have liked these, is I don't think the language was too old time. Like a lot of the language was more modern, which is probably not how they would have spoken, but it was easier to read for me, and so I liked that aspect of it. But I highly recommend these books. I think they're so great and they're so fun, and the titles are Taylor Swift lyrics, so like what more could you want? The next book, or the next prompt, is the most beautiful book you've bought this year. The most beautiful book I've bought this year is The Sirens by Amelia Hart, and I bought the Barnes & Noble exclusive version of this book, and this book is like sprayed edges and has gold foiling on the cover. I'll put up a picture of like the different things, but this is easily the prettiest book I have bought this year. I was actually able to get this book like 40% off, even though it had just come out, because a Barnes & Noble near me was having like a closing sale. So definitely scored with this one. I have been wanting to read this book. I read this author's like other book, Wayward, and I really liked it, so I am excited to read this one, but definitely the prettiest book I bought. All right, and then the last question, number 13, is what are some books you need to read by the end of the year? And for this, for lack of just like listing off a million books, I'm gonna say that books I need to read by the end of the year are gonna be my 2025 TBR and my books that will help me achieve my 2025 reading goals. So for my 25 TBR, I just did 15 books because I don't necessarily read like as many books as some other people. My goal is 150, and I definitely think I will reach like 150, but 25 to read in 2025, that's like a sixth of the books that I would read this year if I only read about 150. And I didn't really like want to trap myself in, so I picked 15, which is still a decent amount, but I picked 15 books on my physical TBR that I've been really wanting to read and just haven't picked up for some reason. And at this point I have read 6 of them, so not great, but also could be worse. So I want to finish my 15 to read in 2025. And then also there's just some books that are on my goals that mostly for my goals, the main books that are like specified is I want to read Rick Riordan's Backlist. And so I definitely want to read those. I actually am working on those right now. I've been reading the Trials of Apollo series, so knocking out some of those. But I definitely want to read books that are on my 2025 TBR and that will help me accomplish my 2025 reading goals. So just like some other things to read that will help me accomplish my goals are books that are on my physical TBR, arcs that I can review, and I want to complete my book of the month challenge, which I've already read 9 out of 15, so I'm absolutely crushing it there. We're just having some minor hiccups with the smaller challenges. But that is the mid-year book freakout tag. Let me know if you guys have read any of these books, what you guys think, anything. Just let me know. Comment down below. Like this video. Subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you in the next one. Bye. Love you.